An F-22 shot down a Chinese surveillance balloon on February 4th, which floated over the continental United States for a week before it was taken out over Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The reason for the delay in taking out the spy balloon over sovereign territory is because it was traveling at an altitude of 60,000 feet above air traffic, and so theoretically there was no risk for aircraft crashing into it. Nevertheless, some of the payload could have fallen out unintentionally, hitting someone in the head tragically. All the more reason, I guess, to wait until it was over the ocean to destroy it. The other flying objects that were shot down over Alaska, Canada, and Michigan were flying at an altitude of 40,000 feet, presenting a hazard to air traffic. So those were taken out much more swiftly. As of now, American officials do not know what the three most recent objects were that were shot out of the sky with missiles devoid of explosives, nor what their purpose was, nor what their intent was. All we know at this point is that the object that was taken out on February 4th over Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, was a PRC reconnaissance balloon. So on February 12th, there was a live Pentagon briefing after the fourth object was shot down. The first object that was shot down was ascertained to be a PRC reconnaissance balloon. The other three, as of now, still remain unresolved. General Glenn Van Herk, commander of North American Aerospace Defense Command and U.S. Northern Command, was asked about whether something like this, that is, kinetic action towards something over the United States, has ever taken place. Here's what he had to say.
I'll have to get with our historians. I believe this is the first time within United States of America airspace that NORAD or United States Northern Command has taken kinetic action against an airborne object.
To put into perspective what has taken place, I want to share former U.S. Marine Bob Pliskin's insight. He wrote, "Just so those worried about the world being able to handle disclosure, the United States Air Force shot down 3 UFOs this weekend, acknowledged that fact, and even stated they are not ruling out extraterrestrial origin. And everyone is watching the Super Bowl. No big deal." So what is the point? The point is that Bob Pliskin has an excellent point. No one cares about the UAP. Everyone was busy watching the Super Bowl, consuming beverages, "5 years since the New York Times article was released. If the secret keepers are under the impression, or they utilize the following as an excuse to keep everything insulated, well, now we just know they're full of shit. No one cares. It's UFO season.
Hi, thanks, Pat, and thanks for doing this. This is for General Van Herk. Because you still haven't been able to tell us what these things are that we are shooting out of the sky, that raises the question, have you ruled out aliens or extraterrestrials? And if so, why? Because that is what everyone is asking us right now.
And thanks for the question, Helene. I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that out. I haven't ruled out anything at this point. We continue to assess every threat or potential threat unknown that approaches North America with the attempt to identify it.
On February 12th, the New York Times dropped an article titled, "What's Going On Up There? Theories but No Answers in Shoot-Downs of Mystery Craft." The U.S. and Canada are investigating 3 unidentified flying objects shot down over North America in the past 3 days. Militaries have adjusted radars to try to spot more incursions. And here's an excerpt. "While the incidents involved unidentified flying objects in the literal sense of the words, national security officials have discounted any thoughts that what the Air Force shot out of the sky represents any sort of extraterrestrial visitors. No one senior official said, thinks these things are anything other than devices fashioned here on Earth. Now, as much as UFO Twitter and other people interested in the UFO topic would love for this to unfold as a story that accurately depicts that machines of unknown origin, provenance, and capabilities have been shot down, I think the likelihood of that is quite low. But that brings me to a tweet that Christopher Mellon shared on February 8th. He wrote, reportedly, the software filters on our SSPAR radars filter out most anything that is not an ICBM or cruise missile. Hence, NORAD failed to report balloon overflights during the Trump administration, but could identify the tracks when they pulled up stored data later. Today, drones, balloons, and other UAV are growing threats, and a review of the settings on these mighty systems is overdue. Now, I find it really bizarre that after this Chinese surveillance balloon was detected, all of a sudden, as far as I understand, now NORAD alters the filters on their radar systems, and now they see all kinds of weird stuff in the sky, and they scramble jet aircraft to blow it out of the sky because it's over the United States and over Canada. This is weird to me because it's not like they didn't know about these technological capabilities. The Air Force was well aware of spy balloons prior to the balloon that they fired out of the sky on February 4th. So why were their filters not calibrated to ensure that they would see things at 40,000 feet floating or flying around? Now, the conspiratorial side of me wants to think maybe that they know that there are genuine UAP, not the Chinese kind, but like UAP of absolute unknown origin. And they know that if they calibrate their systems a certain way, they'll start to pick these up on the regular. And they've ascertained that they are not a threat to national security. Further, there is a UFO cover-up, and they don't want to draw attention to this reality. So what they do is they calibrate their filters so they don't have to contend with this reality. I have no idea if that's true. I'm not saying it's even likely. But I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, along with myself, perplexed that they would have left these filters the way that they were so that what has just been detected in the past week or so could go undetected. It makes no sense to me. On February 3rd, 2022, Chris Mellon wrote an incredible article. It's almost the size of a book. If you're a journalist or you're really serious about the UAP issue, it's a mandatory read, and I will link to it in the description below. It's titled, "Why is the Air Force AWOL on the UAP issue?" And it was published on The Debrief. And here's an excerpt that is highly relevant to our discussion. While the powerful Space Fence searches for and tracks objects in space, North America is ringed by similar massive phase array radars designed primarily to detect ICBM or sea-launched cruise missiles directed at the United States. The numerous UAP that the Navy has been encountering off the east and west coast of the U.S. should be in view of these powerful USAF-managed systems. Did none of these immense radars detect any of the UAP reported by the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group in 2004, or the dozens of UAP reported by East Coast FA-18 fighter squadrons beginning in 2015? Are these massive radars missing what Navy ships and planes are seeing? And if so, why? As we will see below, we know there are instances where Air Force radars tracked high-flying and fast-moving UAP in the 1990s and before. Is there any reason to believe such events stopped altogether prior to 2004? The more apt question is, was any of the UAP information derived from the USAF's SSPARS monitoring system shared with the UAP task force, the DNI, or Congress. I take no pleasure in saying this, but I'm very confident that the United States Air Force has been very active in the cover-up of UAP. If you want to argue that it's more likely that UAP merely represent misidentifications in conventional technology versus otherworldly technology, fine, you can do that rationally, even if I don't agree necessarily. But what you cannot do rationally, if you've studied UFO history sufficiently, is say that there hasn't been a huge amount of military personnel, whether direct witnesses or people pursuing answers to the question of whether or not UAP have been surveilling ICBM installations, as well as sometimes reportedly tampering with the technology, that these folk have been harassed by government personnel, and quite often, I think, people that are associated with the Air Force. There's just too many people who have come forward to say this. So to me, that is a fact. And so regarding the following excerpt that I'm going to share with you from Chris Mellon, it makes a lot of sense. I frankly cannot help wondering if there isn't still an active USAF hidden hand that is concealing UAP data. The deck logs of the USS Princeton for the short period of the Nimitz incident in 2004 are strangely missing from the National Archives. Who removed them? Additionally, the last known location of the USS Princeton's missing radar data was reportedly Langley Air Force Base. Some sailors aboard the Princeton claimed that the ship's radar data was removed by civilian officials and or USAF officers who came aboard the Princeton via helicopter shortly after the famous Tic Tac UAP incident. Why is this invaluable radar data still missing?
There are UFO study programs in multiple agencies across every branch of our military, many of which we know about. The idea is, can they go through a formal process to bring those illegal programs to where they should go? This shouldn't be a job of journalism. This should be a job of cleaning house. This should be something that they do on the inside. Journalists do what they do. This should be clear and straightforward. If there are unknown illegal programs dealing with non-terrestrial technologies, yes, that's a huge issue for humanity. But this also needs to be fixed on the inside.
It absolutely does need to be fixed on the inside. Reportedly, members of Congress have already been given testimony by people either involved or associated with these illegal UAP programs. And the reason they're illegal is because there's no congressional oversight. And maybe even non-kosher oversight within the DoD itself. And this has been going on a long time. I can't prove that these programs exist, but if I had to bet a large sum of money, one way or the other, there's no question I would bet that they exist. That's where I'd put my pile of money. And the reason for that is beyond the scope of this video because it's been pretty long. But suffice to say that these mysterious machines have been detected for decades based upon witness testimony, based upon recent historical developments with the U.S. government acknowledging there's a there doing a 180 from what they've done decades ago. Anyways, hopefully one of the positives that will come out of these recent incursions, the earliest one was the Chinese reconnaissance balloon. The other three, they haven't necessarily ascertained the origin. And this is the developing story. We will, I'm sure, learn where they think these things, these craft, these drones, these balloons, whatever they end up being, where they come from. I don't think it's likely they're going to end up being of non-terrestrial origin, but still, I do think these developments could embolden the United States Congress to be like, we're not doing this anymore. If you have UFO programs that are taxpayer funded and you have much greater fidelity data and understanding of this mysterious phenomena, then you have to apprise us of it, because that's the way the system works. It's a system of checks and balances. And if we are on a committee dealing with national security and there's unknowns in our oceans and in our airspace, we have a right to know about it every bit as much as you. And then the question becomes, how much should the American public be informed? Particularly, from my perspective, when you calculate how much taxpayer money has gone into the alleged illegal UFO programs. Something's got to change. Something's got to change. Let's end this video with a tweet that Chris Mellon dropped on February 12th, yesterday. The USAF, that's the United States Air Force, really has some explaining to do when it comes to UAP. People who are surprised at the presence of these objects haven't been paying attention. One of the reasons why I've been calling for changes to our censor and reporting procedures for years. Before, unknown unknowns. Now, known unknowns. Next, known knowns. 2023 is going to be a I don't even know how to talk. 2023 is going to be a wild ride, y'all. Just saying. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You could give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description below. Or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I will appreciate it so very, very much. You're still watching, aren't you? I love it. In the comment box below, type the word sky so I can know you watched to this point and feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside. And I will see you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.